Whoa! Good afternoon, folks. Here we are. We've come to a milestone. This is where it ends today. Alright? This is where I've been going all along over the last, it's been quite a while. I've mentioned what I'm about to mention before, but this is what it's all about for me right now, okay? Look at this. Look at that. Amazing. I know some of you are thinking, you should have been an artist, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. Even though you're really good at it, you should be doing murals somewhere. Right. See if you can anybody spot what's going on here? There is something going on here, right? There is something going on in this picture. It's something that I'm about to talk about. So while you're listening to that, while you're looking at this, we're going to listen to something. I'm just going to put this on, right? Just absorb what you're listening, okay?
Article, but
Just because we've been down that road
we've been down that road before. It fits in so well to our theoretical framework. It doesn't require.
You have a slot for a dark matter particle?
Well, the amazing thing is, and here's where you're going to come back at me and say this should undercut my confidence. When you look at a theory called supersymmetry that I've spent a long time working on.
Okay.
Within this theory, which goes beyond what we know about particle physics for reasons that are well motivated.
Because that's
we can talk
ordinary
about it.
symmetry.
That's right. It takes the symmetries that we have and it takes them one step further, and it's the only step further that you could possibly go. So of course nature must make use of this final symmetry principle. Why else would it exist? That's the thinking that we've had.
Right, just let me back up for a minute.
Yeah.
So as I was learning particle physics,
Yeah.
I was intrigued to recognize that you have your electron, you have your photon, you have your neutrino, and these other sort of basic particles. And they exist in our world that we experience, okay? If you up the energy knob, other particles manifest. There's a version of the electron that manifests only in these higher energy levels, and it's called a muon,
Right.
okay? And so there's a whole layer of particles sitting above the ones that are in our world.
Right.
So there's 3 of these layers. And tell me the 3 electrons.
You get the electron, the muon, and the tau.
The tau.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's an
And-
electron neutrino, there's a muon neutrino, there's a tau neutrino.
Yeah.
Right. So now I have 3 layers here, and you have access to them in your particle accelerators because it takes a lot of energy, and you can get there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what does supersymmetry do with this package?
Supersymmetry says that
This package is
beautiful and confirmed.
and tell me the three force carriers. We have a photon.
You got the photon, then you got the gluons, you the W and Z bosons are the weak nuclear force.
Okay.
And those are the
Discovered by
forces.
Bozo.
Yeah.
Bozo. Actually, Bose.
Yeah.
Bose is
Yeah.
an Indian physicist.
And, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And then for the quarks, you got the up and the down that we spoke about. You got
Right.
the charm, the strange. You got the top and the bottom.
Right.
So
So
again,
you
they
have
come in 3 pairs of 2.
quarks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Supersymmetry says
Hypothetical.
take all of
I do
those
believe.
particles and double them. Another shadow version of all of those
It's a
particles.
shadow government.
For the electron,
We are the puppets.
this is the deep state.
This is the deep
This is the deep
state.
state.
You won't move further away from actual reality than this, okay? Listen, we won't. It's ridiculous, okay? Now, while you're still observing the picture and trying to work out where we're going with that, I'd just like to read a little something. I haven't lost the key piece of paper, which I'm really good at, right, when I do something spontaneous. Okay, here we go, and it should be about, don't do this to me now, I do not want to start this again. Oh, you've got to be kidding me, right? Where did it go? There it is. Calm down, everyone, calm down. Right. As you know, I've been talking about people like Roma, absurdities, didn't happen, discovering, coming close to working out the speed of light. He came to 220 1,000 kilometers per second by observing a moon in 1676, I think it was, as it slipped out from behind Jupiter at a distance of 750 million kilometers with a 1600s telescope. It didn't happen. The human nature side of it alone is enough to drop kick this thing, right? And then we've got stellar aberration, James Bradley, we've got Wheatstone, we've got all of these absurdities, right? And none of them make any sense. But you have to look at them very closely. I'm calling them lies, right? I'm calling them lies. So let me just read a little bit of what I'm talking about, okay? In 1905, Einstein published his special theory of relativity, followed by the general theory of relativity in 1915. The first theory related to the movement of objects at constant velocity relative to one another, while the second focused on acceleration and its links with gravity. Because they challenged many long-standing hypotheses, such as Isaac Newton's laws of motion, you know the laws of motion. Whenever you question thrust in a vacuum, Newton's third explains everything. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That is thrust in a vacuum. You don't need to know any more. That is the physics behind thrust in a vacuum. Newton's third, okay? Thank you, Newton. Saved everyone a lot of time on that one. They've challenged many long-standing hypotheses, such as Isaac Newton's law of motion. Einstein's theories were a revolutionary force in physics. The idea of relativity embodies the concept that the velocity of an object can be determined only relative to the position of the observer. As an example, a man walking inside an airliner appears to be travelling at about 1 mile per hour in the reference frame of the aircraft, which itself is moving at 600 miles an hour. However, to an observer on the ground, the man seems to be moving at 601 miles per hour. Now, would somebody on the ground see a guy walking? Look, this is where the absurdities start. Why did this even become a thing? All right? This speed of light thing has taken on, it's created a new reality, right? And it's horseradish, okay? What we have here is the perfectly drawn airliner flying over a perfect mountain range, snow-capped mountains, okay? In this aeroplane, this perfectly drawn aeroplane, perfect wings, look. See that guy right there? He's up out of his seat and he's walking towards that toilet there. Now he's probably walking at approximately 1 mile every hour. Turbulence permitting, okay? Now if you look down here, probably a BMW driver, he's pulled over where he shouldn't. But he's got out of the car to go to the toilet and he's with his mate. And they've looked up and he said to his mate, look, there's an aeroplane travelling at 600 miles an hour. But do you see that guy that's walking towards the toilet? And his mate goes, what the fuck are you on about? He's walking at 1 mile an hour. But in relation to the observer, the whole package, 601 miles per hour. Now, it's common sense, isn't it? If you're in an aeroplane that's travelling 600 miles an hour and you get up to go to the toilet and you're walking at 1 mile an hour, you're walking at 601 miles an hour. What's the biggie? You're not walking at 601 miles an hour, but you're travelling at 601 miles an hour. What is the fascination with this absurdity? How did this become a thing? The 1905 and 1915, right? The first ever push for relativity is with Romer. It's a fact, right? Because it's a lie. It didn't happen. But they made him try to push a finite light by saying that there was a delay as planet Earth moved away from Jupiter and Io. Io seem to come out a little bit later all the time. Roma saw Io later, the further away we moved from Jupiter in our orbit around the sun. And it was put down to a finite light. The further away we were from Jupiter, the further it took the sun's light to go bang to Jupiter and Io and come back and hit Roma's telescope. Now, if he was using a telescope, straight away, it's horseradish. But the thing is, the sun's light is absolute. It does not travel at 299,792 kilometers per second. How do we know this? Common sense alone. That's all you need to work this out, okay? Because common sense. You know why they told you that common sense, science doesn't care about your common sense? Because if they had allowed you to keep your common sense, right, you'd be thinking like me, and they do not want that. Now, we have our star that's 1,390,000 kilometers away, alleged, okay? We can only go by the numbers that they give us. And they messed up on this one because they came up with the speed of light. It's just a mind, right? It does not travel. Roma, people's spinning mirrors, Fitzo in 1849 sending a beam of light traveling 8.8 kilometers one way and 8.8 kilometers back. A few decades before electricity was properly up and running. What kind of a beam of light does that? Give me a break. It's one absurdity after another is what we're dealing with here. And I'm calling them out. I'm accusing these people of lying. Right? I'm accusing them of lying. Now, I'm going to say something here, right? The astrophysicists, they talk this and talk that. Brian Cox, I think he's too genuine. I don't think he'd be in on this. I think he honestly thinks the speed of light might be what they say it is, right? But it's not. Look how many people it's fooled, okay? It's fooled loads of people, but it is not fooling me, right? I'm looking at these things objectively. Sun, a diameter of 1,390,000 kilometers, right? If we divide it by the speed of light, 299,792, we get 4.6 seconds. And that 4.6 seconds is 4.6 seconds that it takes our sun to radiate its own light the distance of its own diameter. Now, this is reason enough to drop kick all of this out. The whole of relativity depends on a finite speed of light. This simple fact, and somebody needs to look at this properly, right? I try to explain it using pi. I've tried to explain it using the eclipse, the solar eclipse. It's obvious, right? And I'll do the solar eclipse again. What they're saying is the sun's light takes 4.6 seconds to radiate light the distance of its diameter. So if the sun was off and it turned on, this is what would happen. It would go 1, 2, 3, 4.6. 1, 2, 3, 4.6 seconds to radiate light the distance of its diameter. Now, if this were the sun, look, bang! People say, yeah, but it's a bulb, it's a bulb. Of course it lights up the whole room. Pi, right? It's a mathematical constant, right? As the diameter increases, the circumference increases, the surface area increases. Why do people think that it's going to suddenly slow down, right? Because of the speed of light, because of something that somebody in 1676, I think it was, and 17, there's a string of them, all right? But they're absurdities. None of them make sense, right? None of them make sense. And somebody needs to call this out, and I'm doing it now. I'm calling them lies, right? Why don't they, surely by now, they should be able to go, look, let's show you how the mirror thing works. But I mean, show us how it works. Show us where the mirror was, how far away it was from what light, when it, how many times it was spun, what those spins signified in kilometers per second, and just explain it using layman's terms, right? Nobody I've ever spoken to understands it. People think they do, right? Until you question them, and everybody goes quiet, right? There is no study that shows that the sun's light has either been measured or timed. And you know why that is, don't you? Because it cannot be measured or timed. Right. Einstein, where are we? Einstein assumed in his calculations that the speed of light travelling between two frames of reference remains the same for observers in both locations. So what? So what? This is the thing. They've started this whole branch. You heard them. That is where this has led to, right? That is where this has led to. But listen to this.
Stellar neighbors have posed what seemed like an insurmountable challenge to scientists, engineers, and visionaries. Interstellar travel, long confined to the realm of science fiction, has been a tantalizing goal, one that seemed centuries away. But now, NASA has stunned the world with a groundbreaking announcement. The development of a light-speed engine capable of interstellar travel might finally be within reach. This revelation has sparked excitement, skepticism, and endless debate within the...
Count me in for 10 of skepticism. Did they go to the moon? No. No, they didn't. Right? Between 1969 and 1972. 6 successful moon landings. Did they? Do we really think that in 1969, Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins, in 1969, apparently they used a sextant to get there. A sextant and a telescope. And we believe this, yeah? No, I tell you what. It's people that have been taught this that believe it and defend it with everything they're worth, and I get that, okay? 1969, 1972. 6 moons. And that's not including, we've got to include 10, because that is even more of an absurdity than 11, because it went up, was orbiting the moon, dropped to within 7 or 8 kilometers of the moon's surface, put the brakes on, took some pictures, and then shot back up. And it was those pictures, right, that were given to Neil, Michael, and Buzz. And that was in, they went in July think it was something like March, April, they were going up like buses. There was that many rockets going up. Do you believe that in early 1969, 3 people shot off to the moon, dropped to within 6 or 7 Ks or miles, took some photographs, right? Went back up and then came back down and said, here, Michael, and that, and Neil, here's your photographs. And then they went and they did it. And this was in 1969. Now, we have a shared, like a common denominator, right? We can see what's happening with Artemis, right? We've got this absurdity that we don't have they, not we, they don't have the technology that they used to have. But that has got to be horseradish as well. It's just something that's said. Because what else are they going to say, right? They were cashing checks back then, right? And they didn't have any money in the bank, right? What is it, Tom Cruise? Your body's cashing checks, your ego can't, or the other way around. Your ego's, look, they kick the arse out of it, right? And 50 years later, the reality is nobody's getting to the moon, right? Where is the actual evidence? Not these footprints and reflectors. Where are they? It's this presumption, right? The same as the speed of light. Where is the evidence that the speed of light from the sun has been timed or measured? How on earth do people honestly think that it takes a star 4.6 seconds to radiate light the distance of its diameter? Don't you get that? Don't you see this bulb? That sun turns on and it's not. It's ridiculous. You look at UY Scuti with a diameter of 2.377 billion kilometers. It takes UY Scuti, if you divide the 2.2377 billion by the speed of light, it takes 2 hours and 12 minutes for UY Scuti to radiate its light the distance of one of its diameters. It takes a star 2 hours. Can people not see how stupid this is? How can people not see how stupid this is? Anyway, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm putting my neck on the line, because the lies are obvious, right? The lies are obvious. You heard all this crap. Interstellar travel, it's a load of rubbish. What we have is the Jetsons and the Flintstones. That is what's happening, and people need to wake up to the reality of it. What qualifications do I have? People ask me. God, I love those green grapes. What qualifications? When we talk about qualifications, are we talking about the same qualifications that some of the people have who have come up with the theories that the Egyptians built the pyramids? This is Pyramid Giza, right? It weighs the equivalent, or let's say it weighs 6.5 million tons. That's it there, right? Now the people with the qualifications, right, have come up with a basket full of theories for how the Egyptians built these pyramids. Now, Giza alone weighs the equivalent of 65 fully loaded Nimitz class aircraft carriers. Now, I've done this time and time again, and some people go, no, yeah, it's doable. Now, what kind of, well, there is no common sense there. It's logistically impossible for anyone with copper hand tools and ropes and sleds to be able to carve the equivalent weight of 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers out of anywhere. But then when we look at all we're not going to look at the Queen's pyramids because there's a story behind that absurdity. The 3 pyramids, right? The 3 of them, they weigh approximately 13.5 tons, sorry. 13.5 tons. 13.5 million tons. It's been a long day. The 3 pyramids weigh approximately 13.5 million tons. That is the equivalent weight of 135 Nimitz class aircraft carriers with copper handles, with no wheel. The equivalent weight of 135 Nimitz class aircraft carriers. Alexa, how many aircraft carriers are there in total on planet Earth in all of the navies?
Here is an answer from an Alexa Answers contributor that I translated. 8 nations maintained 19 aircraft carriers in service in 2019, with the United States having a number of aircraft carriers, 10, greater than the sum of all other countries, namely the United Kingdom, France, Russia, China, Brazil, Italy, India.
So Alexa, so the total aircraft carriers in service now on this planet is how many?
From Berkeley.edu, there are currently over 20 aircraft carriers in service around the world, with several more under construction or in development.
Now, Pyramid Giza alone weighs 3 times, right, the total amount of aircraft carriers that are sailing around the oceans right now. The Egyptians with copper handles, right? Now this is about qualifications. Why do people really put anything on qualifications if the people who have them are coming up with this stupidity that Egyptians built the pyramids? If people cannot see, can't work this out on their own, and they persist, even when they know about the aircraft carrier situation, that the Egyptians still built them, what does that say, right? It means people are so confused about reality, right, that they can't even work out something that is logistically impossible to do, but people still think it's possible. That is why people think everything is possible. That's why people think that 6 successful landings between 69 and 72 is doable. Of course it is. Shit, the Egyptians built the pyramids, for crying out loud. I don't have any qualifications, but I have plenty of common sense, and I have a very good understanding of how logic works, right? Now, the sun taking 4.6 seconds to radiate light the distance of its own diameter is stupid. It's unrealistic. It makes no sense. Now, why is nobody addressing this, right? Why? I'm not talking about the people that are throwing comments at me. I'm talking about the people with brains. There's got to be people out there with brains, right, that know that this is ridiculous. Why isn't anybody saying anything? It's because it has to do with everything. The age of the universe, speed of light. They need a finite speed of light to control things. They need a finite speed of light for space travel. It gives them an excuse to not have to talk to Ingenuity, as it's doing 60 plus flights on Mars. It didn't happen. It did not happen. I know that the moon landings didn't happen. When you know 1 didn't happen, then 2 didn't happen, and 3 didn't happen, and 4 didn't happen. We didn't happen, and then all of a sudden we're going to Mars. It doesn't work like that, right? People have lost the ability. Not everybody, because there's loads of people that know they didn't go to the moon. Anybody with any common sense knows they didn't go to the moon. It is not fair. I'm not really talking about anyone in the US, because it is something that is crammed down your throats from the minute you go to school, right? And that is key, because it is about education. And if you're taught something from a very, very early age, it sticks. And of course you'll defend it. Why wouldn't you defend it? It didn't happen. It's illogical. It doesn't make any sense. And not having the technology now that you had back then, doesn't cut it. It defies common sense as well. It's not a very logical thing to say, is it? Especially when NASA are just about to go interstellar with a new engine. The lies. I'm accusing them of lying. The Parker Solar Probe, 4 sun diameters away from the sun. You honestly think that they've got a probe 4 sun diameters away from the sun, orbiting about here? It got caught up in a coronal mass ejection last year, and it sent footage back. It had cameras catching the blast of a solar flare. It was in a solar flare, and it sent footage back. People, are you being serious? This is unbelievable, right? But this is what is happening. They're lying. They are lying through their teeth. DART, an asteroid knocked off course. Another lie. Are they talking to the Voyagers over 20 billion kilometers away? Send it an update. It's lies, right? And you know how we know how? Because the sun's light is absolute. It does not take the sun 8 minutes and 20 seconds to radiate its light to planet Earth. Here's another one for you. I'm putting all of this together. Somebody send it to NASA for crying out loud. It's so obvious, right? They're just treating everyone like idiots. If you knew how much they're insulting people's intelligence, right? My kids growing up on a planet where this crap is going on. Look at the money they're spending. We have the sun. All right? Eclipse. I've used this example, I don't know how many times, right? Some people get it. But the people that are indoctrinated with the lies, they refuse to accept it. It's not that they refuse to accept it. They can't even understand it because it goes against everything that they've been taught. So you have the moon here. It eventually moves in front of the sun, and you're in that sweet spot for a short period of time, right? You've got the moon smack bang in front of the sun, right? For that anywhere between 3, 4, 5, up to 8 minutes. And all you can see is that outline, right? They've basically got the same diameter there, haven't they? Close to. And all you can see of the sun is the corona, the outer edge of the sun. Now, according to the Mickey Mouse science and the Mickey Mouse speed of light of 299,792 kilometers per second, what you're looking at right there is impossible to be looking at because it takes the sun's light 8 minutes and 20 seconds to reach us. That would mean that the light you are seeing from this star right now, it's 8 minutes and 20 seconds old. This is the Mickey Mouse science I'm talking about. They're saying that when you look at the sun in the sky, that you're not actually seeing the sun because the light has taken 8 minutes and 20 seconds to get here. So when you're looking at that sun that's blinding you, it's not really there. It's over there. How stupid do they think we are? Or at least not all of us are falling for this crap, because some of us can think for ourselves, right? It's more than obvious, and you saw from the eclipse, right, that happened in April last year in the US, as the moon was in front of the sun and it went from south east, southwest, all the way up to the northeast, all the way up the coast, right? Through the middle of the US, right? Up towards Canada, to the east coast of Canada. And it was the perfect eclipse all of the way. How does that happen if there is an 8-minute and 20-second delay? How on earth did they both stay like that if there is an 8-minute and 20-second delay? It's impossible. The only way for that to be able to happen is the sun. It's where it is, shining absolute light, and the moon just moves in front of it, right? That's why the shadow followed up, because it is absolute light. It is so stupid to believe that the sun isn't really there when you're looking at it. But that's what they want us to believe. They also say that if the sun turned out, it would take 8 minutes and 20 seconds before we found out. If the sun went out, it's just going down now, let's go have a quick peek. It would go dark instantaneously, right? Because it's absolute light. It's not going to take 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Again, an insult to people's intelligence, or at least to mine. 8 minutes and 20 seconds. It's so stupid, right, to believe that the sun, a star, takes that long. I can kind of see it, but I don't know how well you saw it up there. Look, it's absolute horseradish, all of it. It started with Roma. Roma didn't happen in the 1600s. Roma was fed in, I bet you, it was somebody's idea, maybe 100 years ago, just the beginning of last century, along with plenty of the others. Why on earth? Why on earth? See, this is another thing. Give me 2 seconds here. Why on earth did all of these people 400 years before it was needed, 200-300 years before electricity was a thing, why were they doing all of these things? Right? This is a serious question, and nobody really clicks about this, and I've mentioned it before. The James Webb Space Telescope right now is cruising around at Lagrange point 2. Joseph Lagrange was the one that worked out the three-body solution in 1772. Does that seem normal? Somebody working out the gravity of planets, in 1772. Before even electricity, nothing, right? But working out gravitational pulls of planets and where there would be a place where something could just hover because of the gravity of the other two bigger bodies. Logical? I don't really think it is. The same as Olaus Roma in 1676. Going out one night and going, in fact, I think it was Galileo that might have passed on the info to him. Hey, go and check Io and that out. Who? And we are talking hundreds of years before electricity was a thing. Why on earth would somebody be out there trying to work out the speed of light because of a delay in light that was coming from a planet and its moon as we move further away from it? It's so illogical. worked out the speed of light over 9 years, right? These things did not happen. Prove it. Prove it. They need to prove. Why don't they prove that it can be done? I've got my telescope now and I'm seeing Io. It can't be done. They didn't even have any accurate timekeeping devices. How? Look, it's just the thought of it, right? Christian Huygens came up with the wave theory of light in 1674. 17, 18, we're talking 200 years before electricity. He's come up with the wave theory of light. 200 years before electricity. How? What? What is that? What is that? I tell you what it is, horseradish. Why on earth would somebody be working that stuff out when there was no light? There wasn't even a battery, right? Why would they be working out the light of the sun? As if it was... That's why. Because they had to cram as many of these things in, ready for 1969. I'm calling it now. Why else are all these absurdities here? Kepler, planetary, it worked out the planets were in elliptical orbits. How do you do that? How does somebody work that out when he's stuck in one country, right? Stuck in one country. 1609, planetary motion, elliptical orbits. 1609. Wasn't travelling anywhere. Did he even have a fucking telescope? They say, oh yeah, he did. Look at this. Hans Lippershey, telescope, 1608. Kepler, 1609. See how it works? It's all perfect. So telescopes just been made. Go, planets, elliptical orbits. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kepi. Logical. People, you might, I don't think people can think about these things in any depth. They just look at it superficially. There's a human nature side aspect of these things involved. Same as the moon landings. You people have heard the landing. Did they show any signs of anxiety as they were apparently running out of fuel? It's these things that are being overlooked. When they were travelling towards the moon, they're laughing and joking and this and that. Is that how people would react as they're seeing the Earth disappear, going to some place that nobody has ever gone to before? It's taken them 100 hours to get there in a spaceship, right? Using a telescope and a sextant to get there. And they're joking. Yeah, it's cool up here, a bit tired, a bit cramped mind. And then, no sleep for just about 4 days. They get there, orbit the moon once, jump in and leave Michael Collins on his own. And they were fine. 4 days cramped up in that flipping rocket, right? In the command capsule. And they jumped in and just descended to the moon like they'd done it 1,000 times. No anxiety whatsoever. Just like they were going to get some milk. People are missing all these things, right? It's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. It just shows the lack of depth. The lack of depth that people just don't see these things, right? It's impossible. Not to mention the fact that Buzz kept on saying that they didn't go, right? There's so many reasons why they didn't go. And all it takes, right, is a confirmation that they didn't go. And everything after it, everything space after it stops. Because if one doesn't go, the second one didn't go, and the third one didn't go. If it's discovered that Apollo 11 didn't go, which they didn't, let's call it number 10. Apollo 10 goes up and takes photographs, drops, takes photographs, and then shoots back up. How did they manage that? Where did they get the thrust from in a vacuum? Oh yeah, of course, Newton's third. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. People, There are so many holes in this, right? People are living a lie. Our whole lives revolve around what they say. They're telling us how old the universe is. There is no such thing as a light year. There is no such thing as a light year. Why do I say that? I tell you why I say that. And all those people over the last few months going, this guy's crazy, he's got Dunning-Kruger, no. No, I am thinking logically and I'm using common sense. You guys don't have any common sense left because you believe these absurdities for so long. You can't distinguish between what's real and what isn't. You don't know the difference between what's possible and what isn't, right? That's obvious by believing the pyramids. There is nothing wrong with my intelligence levels, right? Or my common sense. Dunning-Kruger, straight back at you. There is no such thing as a light year because every single light source radiates its light at this speed. Absolute speed. The bigger a light source is, the more powerful a light source is, the further it will radiate its light at absolute speed. It doesn't get bigger and more powerful and then get restricted by some Mickey Mouse speed of light that there is no evidence for, right? The bigger a light source is, the further it will radiate its light at absolute speed. If a light source doesn't reach your eyesight, as soon as it's turned on, that's it. You're not going to see it tomorrow. So when they say things like Proxima Centauri takes 4.2 light years to get here, absolute rubbish. That star is live where it is. If you can see a light source in the night sky, it's because it is there. It's common sense, right? It's because it's there. Hang on, where's that? Where's El Torcho? How many times have I done this? Right? Somebody is at 15 kilometers away from this torch. It's got a range of 15 k's. Somebody looking at it, right? Somebody goes to 17 k's. They can't see it, right? Why do you think light would travel towards this person, right? When a light source is turned on, it radiates at absolute speed. If somebody is way down there and waiting for a light source, if they don't see it when it's switched on, it's over. It's not going to travel any amount of years to get somewhere. You either see it when it switches on or you don't. Oh yeah, but it's a star. It's different than a flashlight. No, it isn't. It's the concept, right? Everything revolves around the speed of light. A finite, a 200 in Mickey Mouse 299,792, they could say whatever they want, can't they? Oh, we found this, billions of years old, billions of light years to get here. Absolute horseradish. If you can see a light source in the night sky, it's because it is there. It does not travel after the fact. You either see it or you don't. I say absurdity about the space telescopes, right? If they really are up there and they're really finding all of this stuff, I don't believe half of the crap. I don't, because the thrust in a vacuum thing, too many questions, right? And they're already on about some interstellar light speed device. It's just ridiculous, but people are believing it. That's all that matters to them. They lie and they lie. This whole civilization, it's built around lies, isn't it? The whole shebang, everything is lies. They lie to the children. They lie to the children. If you can lie to the children and fill their heads full of crap, when they're older, it sticks with them, and then you can manipulate them, right? He who controls the children controls the future. It is a fact. That is why they don't want free thinkers. That is why they're dumbing down the education system. They're trying to keep everybody dull, aren't they? Right? It's a fact. Light is absolute. The thing that determines how far a light source will radiate at absolute speed is the size and power of the source. Our sun, for example, does not take 8 minutes and 20 seconds to radiate its light to planet Earth. How can I prove it? It's common sense. How can they prove that it travels at 299,792? It's ridiculous. Somebody look into the 4.6 seconds per diameter. It's so obviously wrong, right? That it hurts, right? It hurts. But the lies, right, mate? The lies just keep on rolling, as we heard, right? Interstellar. God, they haven't even been to the moon. Haven't even been to the moon. And if they have, it was at something like 20,000 miles an hour, and it's ended up in a scrap heap, right? We don't have the technology we used to have. The common sense we share is the Artemis. We can all see what's going on, right? I think that kind of just about covers it. Like I think I said at the beginning, not because he's a fellow UKer, but I feel that Brian Cox probably fell for the 299,792. I'd love to hear other people's opinions about this. I mean actual people that work with this stuff, right? Because I reckon it's fooled a lot of people. The same the Egyptians carved the equivalent weight of 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers out of any number of quarries just to build Pyramid Giza. How stupid. I mean, how is that to believe that? And people say, I can't get over it. That ridge has been created by people scurrying up and taking it to build other buildings. Look how thick, look how deep it goes. That's 8 to 10 meters deep, right? Those are 2.5 ton stones. Look at them. People don't go climb up 80 meters, and they don't climb up 80 meters on the north, south, east, and west faces and create a tide mark, because it's so obviously a tide mark, right? It's so obvious that they have been submerged. It's this academia thing, isn't it? Eh? They refuse to look at things like as they are, but they think we're all idiots. Well, we aren't, and some of us are sick of the shit, which is why we're doing what we're doing, right? So I hope this goes to wherever it needs to go, right? Light is absolute. Size and power of the light source is what determines how far it gets. There's no such thing as a light year. Holy smokes, 53 minutes. I hope I haven't left anything out. All right, later peeps.